I call Chris Elmore to move the motion.
I beg to move that this House has considered the effect of exiting the EU on businesses in Wales. It is a pleasure to serve under your chairmanship today, Mr McCabe. The effect that exiting the EU will have on businesses in Wales is incredibly important, and so I thank honourable members for attending today. This debate offers the opportunity to recognise the challenges ahead, but also gives a chance for the Government to clarify their Brexit plan for Wales, which I sincerely hope they will give detail on today. There are serious concerns amongst businesses in Wales that the Government does not have a plan for how Brexit will work for them. The success of our local small and medium-sized enterprises should be a concern for us all. When local businesses do well, not only do they generate jobs and meet the needs of our communities, they fill up our high streets, liven up our towns and serve to inspire the businesses of the future. Businesses across Wales are facing dangerous uncertainty and they need the Government to publish their plan for Welsh Brexit. One of the starkest consequences of exiting the EU for businesses in Wales could be a widening funding gap. Each year, the EU contributes around £650 million in investment to Welsh social businesses and SMEs. It seems that for each pot of funding that helps our businesses to thrive, they have only been made possible by EU contributions. The Social Business Growth Fund, for example, is contributing £4 million, but £2.3 million of that is from the EU. Similarly, the Wales Business Fund is providing £136 million, but £76 million of it is also from EU funds. In addition to this, low-interest loans from the European Investment Bank have enabled companies and public bodies across Wales to thrive. The European Regional Development Fund, which amongst other projects will provide £160 million for a Phase 2 of the South Wales Metro, and Horizon 2020, which has been pivotal for Welsh universities. If the Government does not plan for Brexit, our Welsh businesses could see a serious dent in their funding. To the Government's credit, the Chancellor has announced that the Treasury will guarantee all multi-year EU business funding agreed before Brexit. But we need confirmation of the Government's plan for EU funding that does not fit this criteria. The Government must also provide clarity about the status of the cumulative £2.7 billion post-2020 EU funding that has not yet been underwritten by the Treasury. Our departure from the EU could also impact the availability of training in Wales. Jobs Growth Wales, the scheme by the Welsh Government to get young people into work, will support the creation of 8,955 new job opportunities for 16 to 24-year-olds over the next 3 years, and has also been made possible by the European Social Fund. Similarly, the Work on Ways Plus scheme, made possible by £7.5 million worth, also from the European Social Fund, offers one-to-one mentoring. Long-term unemployed people become ready for work. The scheme also gives an opportunity for people to gain new qualifications and find paid positions for some. Thousands of apprenticeships throughout Wales are also reliant on the EU and could be affected by our exit. The European Alliance for Apprenticeships, launched in July 2013, works closely with the Government to strengthen the quality, supply and image of apprenticeships. The Alliance has been pivotal in securing and promoting opportunities throughout Wales. There is also consequences of Britain leaving the single market or ending freedom of movement, which could affect businesses in Wales. Welsh universities and businesses reliant on them will be particularly impacted by the latter. Each year, 7,000 EU students enrol at universities throughout Wales, and if the Government can clarify their desired future migration arrangements, universities and associated businesses can plan accordingly. As it stands, though, there is no clear indication from this Government on whether the restrictions will be applied and the enrolment of EU students will decrease once we have left the European Union. Often when this House debates the effect that exiting the EU will have, sometimes we allow the discussion to slip away from the realities on the ground. But I want today to focus on the real impact this will have for one of the businesses in particular in my constituency. The business I refer to is one of the UK's leading manufacturers in their industry. They have asked to remain anonymous, but have kindly told me their concerns for their future ahead, which I will share with the House. For this manufacturer, business is already being impacted by a downturn in construction activity and sizable currency fluctuations. They tell me that the scale of the potential change is vast, and if this materialises into widespread change, the implications for resources and productivity are significant. For this industry-leading business, the level of uncertainty is of serious concern, which must be addressed urgently. The business employs people throughout the UK, not only in my constituency, and they need clarity around the form of Brexit, and they need a plan. Specifically, they need to know if the government plans to stay in the single market and the customs union. They tell me that they need a commitment to ensuring Britain can secure the right skills in the workforce, as well as assurances for other policy voids such as energy efficiency. The bottom line is that business in Wales is crying out for a Brexit plan for Wales. The likelihood is that when the UK leaves the EU in March 2019, the engine of Welsh business will not break down, but if the government does not plan accordingly, it will slowly lose fuel and industries will come to a halt. Wales does not need a red, white and blue Brexit, as the Prime Minister has suggested, but instead a comprehensive strategy to deliver the most secure outcome. These vague platitudes by the government mean nothing and serve only to distract from the fact that, as it stands, we're being led into the night without a torch. I'd happily give way to my honourable friend.
Would you agree with me that Norgine, which is a Dutch pharmaceutical company of a manufacturing facility in Hengoed, speaks for many businesses in Wales when they say what they want is a very soft Brexit?
I would completely agree with my honourable friend. I'm getting that constantly from businesses across my constituency as well. My honourable friend, the member for Holborn and St Pancras, the Shadow Secretary of State for exiting the European Union, has previously asked the government 170 questions on how the UK will be shaped after we have left. Today, for the sake of minimalising the effect of exiting the EU on businesses in Wales, I would like to ask the government only 3 simple questions. Will the government guarantee to replace post-2020 EU funding that has not yet been underwritten by the Treasury? What steps will be taken to ensure there is not a training shortage in Wales once we have left the EU? And how will the government involve business in Wales as part of their EU negotiations, as well as the representations made by the Secretary of State for International Trade? I happily give way to my honourable friend.
Could I add a fourth to his helpful list of 3, which is, will the government come clean on whether or not deals have been done with companies such as Nissan in the North East? Because in my constituency, and indeed my honourable friend for Allen and Deeside, we have a large number of car manufacturers, for example, Vauxhalls even in England, who depend on access to the single market, as does Toyota, employing constituents of mine and my honourable friends.
I completely agree with my honourable friend Videlin. I mean, I would add that my honourable friend, the member for Bridgend, who couldn't be here today, has the Ford plant that actually borders my constituency, and I again would ask for similar guarantees around the automotive industry, because it does have a direct effect on my constituency. I would be surprised to hear any answers from the Parliamentary Under Secretary of State to my questions, but I would like to conclude with this warning. The act of leaving the EU is inevitably going to have an effect on businesses in Wales, but the uncertainty that the government has created is completely unnecessary. This government needs a plan for business in Wales, and it needs to announce it to the House for the attention of businesses in all of our constituencies. The EU is embedded in businesses across Wales, and the contribution it makes in funding and training and the opportunities it offers. Happily give way.
The focus is often on the big primes. I have Airbus, Toyota, but it is the actual supplier chain that I am particularly worried about, particularly if they are supplying other parts of the business in Europe, and they might think that they might be better placed to actually go there and relocate there, and that would cause massive harm to all of our areas.
I entirely agree with my honourable friend for Allen and Deeside, and I echo his concern. I get that constantly from small businesses, not just from my own constituency, but just from living in South Wales and hearing what businesses are saying across the piece. I give way to the member for Swansea West.
The Minister, as well, that there should be a level playing field. If certain particular motor companies are selected for special subsidies and under-the-table deals, and it discriminates against other industries, whether it's big industries like Airbus or smaller suppliers, as just been explained, we need to support for all exporters and subsidiary suppliers that are going to be confronted by tariffs in order that they can continue to compete effectively.
I thank my honourable friend for his intervention. I think the Parliamentary Secretary has heard it, and I think he's right to make the point. We do need a fair playing field for all businesses across Wales and indeed across the UK. And opportunities it offers will be sorely missed if the government do not create better circumstances for businesses in a post-EU Wales. Businesses in Wales have been clear that they are willing to adapt to post-Brexit Britain, but they need certainty from government about what post-Brexit Britain will look like. Business in Wales needs assurances. As a Member of Parliament, it is mine and all our duties to go back to our constituencies and tell local businesses what they can anticipate from Parliament and the government in the near future. But when I speak to them, I cannot give them any assurances because this House has not been given any by the government. I'm not asking today for a running commentary. I leave those privileges to the Foreign Secretary. I'm not hoping for a line-by-line strategy. I'm only asking for a few select assurances so that business in Wales can begin to plan accordingly. And I say again, will the government guarantee to replace cumulative £2.7 billion worth of post-2020 EU funding that has not been underwritten by the Treasury? What steps will be taken to ensure there is not a training shortage in Wales? And how will the government involve business in Wales as part of their EU negotiations, as well as representations made by the Secretary of State for International Trade? I suspect the government is unable to provide any answers, so I can only assume it's because they do not have any.
Yeah.